Get ready to meet the strongest chess player in the world, and for many the strongest player in the history of the game. He's going to be taking us on an emotional trip throughout the highlights of his career, holding up for critical examination some of his most cherished memories, forged in nerve-wracking hours of mental combat behind the board. This won't be a calm, reflective look back. It'll be a collection of the most vivid moments in an undeniably dramatic life. Hopefully, by viewing these events through his own eyes, we'll come to understand who this controversial, larger-than-life man really is, what drives him, and what shaped him. Garry Kasparov was born on April 13, 1963 in Baku, in the then Soviet Republic of Azerbaijan. And like other prodigies that seemed destined to become world champion, Kasparov did not appear to choose chess. It seems to have chosen him. The story goes that at the age of 5, he suddenly told his parents the answer to a chess problem on a table in front of him, even though he'd never yet been taught the rules of the game. At the age of 7, he was enrolled at a chess class in Baku and made quick progress. Age 9, the famed Botvinnik school sought him out, and the tiny boy began elite training. By the age of 12, he was already the junior champion of the mighty USSR, the youngest ever. It was the first step on a journey that would be characterized by almost uninterrupted success. He was to become the youngest ever champion of the Soviet Union, and then the youngest ever champion of the world. Garry Kasparov took the chess world by storm. In the course of his career, he would change the way people played and even tear down the way the game was governed. He would make enemies as easily and as gladly as he made headlines. Let's look back to where our journey starts, with Kasparov entering his teenage years. The chess landscape was utterly different in the late 1970s. Then, fashion bowed to the immaculate, safety-first style of reigning titan Anatoly Karpov. The most successful tournament player of all time, his sensible, natural style shunned risk, and opening theory often took a back seat to patient maneuvering, practical play, and a very methodical, clinical execution. Karpov was the model Soviet citizen, a winner who prized politeness, every mother-in-law's dream. On came Kasparov, raging with a frightening black leather metal-studded version of success, riding some new contraption called glasnost. He made noise, he broke things, he knocked people out of his way. Well, there can never be any doubt that no town could ever be big enough for the both of them. Kasparov's style, brash, energetic, and aggressive, set the standard for the next generation of chess players, where risk-taking in the pursuit of victory would almost become an end in itself. His capacity for hard work and the emergence of this new computer technology would accelerate the development of the game to an unprecedented degree. But in his early years, Kasparov was busy enough building success. He was a top student who spent his free time winning tournaments and setting records. Garry was young when his father died. His mother became the power center of his life, and his sense of family has always been very strong. His personal life would become a remarkable blend of close family ties and whirlwind public commitments. What kind of challenge, then, did it take to make an impression on him? Well, clearly, one needs to get inside his head to learn the story behind the scenes and behind the games.
Most of the games you're going to show us, I'm familiar with. This one was completely new to me until you showed it to me shortly before.
I guess it was not included in chess-based list of my games, so that's why it's...
Well, not only chess, but anyway, any books, magazines.
Yeah, I don't think the game was shown too much. But this game from the Soviet Junior Championship, 1977. I was 7 years old, but I already was the champion. I won the tournament in 1976. But many consider that the first success was just pure luck, and they expected other players, more experienced players, and it's the championship under 18, and I was just 13 years old. The other players would be able to take revenge, and I had quite an impressive list of victories from round 4 to the end of the tournament, with 6 future GMs, including Pigusov, Lanka, Kengis, Yusupo, and Stura. And I picked up the game from Kengis from this tournament. It was round 7. And in round 6 I beat Lanka, and it was in Riga. So the 2 local players, I played them in the row. And obviously Kengis was trying to save the pride of his republic and the Latvian chess school. And
Did he succeed?
to see whether he could stop me. I already have 5.5 out of 6, and the game was very important because basically it decided the championship. I probably played at that time my best tournament. It's not only because of the result, 8 wins, 1 draw, but also I was very happy with the quality of the games. It's a very rare and nice combination when you have phenomenal result and excellent quality of the games. And I would like even to comment my first move in this game against Edwin Cengiz.
Why?
D4. For me, it was a major breakthrough. It's the second time in my life I played D4. First one was 2 rounds before the game against Pigusev in round 5. That was round 7. And in the 6th round, I won a very nice positional game against Zigrid Lanka. And the championship was taking place in Riga. So it was the second Latvian player opposing me, and of course everybody expected him at either making draw or winning, beating the leader, and taking a chance to win the title. So Latvian chess school was quite strong. It's not only Tal, but some other young, strong players, and they had all reasons to expect that Cengiz could give me a good fight. So he did, but it ended up not as nicely as it started. So D4 was quite an unusual choice for me. That's why I hope you will not criticize me severely for the opening, because it was quite poor by any standards. Knight f6, knight f3, b6, bishop f4. But I had very limited knowledge of the openings after d4. That's why I tried to develop all the pieces and have a solid position. And I hope that later on, I will use my tactical superiority.
Reminds me of your game with Nigel Short from Skellefteå, 1989. He also played this opening D4, knight f3, bishop f4.
He
for the first
right.
time.
Yes, yeah, but it didn't save him.
It was a very good game.
Yeah, he lost. Yes, but he lost too many games in a row. That's why he tried something new, desperately trying to break this unsuccessful streak.
Oh, I liked that game very much.
Yeah, it was a very good game. So we just developed the pieces, so I don't think it's part of the game should be even commented. Knight c4. Now Cengiz played b5, which is a very sharp move, because after knight a3, black is losing the battle on the queen side, so it has to find some active moves. And he found one. Knight takes b4. After c takes b4, white knight comes on c4, and white has positional plus. So now Cengiz reached the position that he liked, because black sacrificed temporarily pawn, but bishop on f4 is attacked, pawn on b2 is under attack, potentially knight c3 will be a threat, and all white pieces, they are not well coordinated. Knight on a3, bishop on f4 is hanging.
Looks like you're playing black.
Yeah, so it's very dynamic, and Cengiz looked confident. I saw him, walking out of the table, talking to Lanka. There were some other local players. It's like a big open tournament, and the local players were very happy with black's position. They expected me to collapse soon. Premature. So I took on d6, and here black could take on f4 and to have a very good compensation. Now, bishop takes b2, that's what I saw, was not sufficient because of queen d2, and I take on b4, and now black has to lose one of the bishops.
I see.
Yeah. So black had to take on d6, but it would give them a very good compensation, in my opinion. But Cengiz was not looking for compensation. He was there to kill, so he took on b2. And it seems that white is in trouble. Everything is hanging. Too many pieces. And what this pawn on d6 could do, how this pawn could change the tide of the history. As usual, the pawns are all sacrificed. Bishop a6, rook e8. Of course, Cengiz doesn't want to consider the exchange of rooks on a1 and f8. He doesn't want to trade the rooks because he believes the rook on a1 will go anyway. And this move...
Quite a surprise.
Yeah, was quite a surprise. He was very, very nervous. I remember that at that time he nearly jumped on his chair because d7, so the pawn is sacrificed. But it took couple of minutes for him to realize that he's now on the defensive. So black must take, and then knight c4. Black again must take, queen takes a1. So white is threatening to mate now. So the best move was f6. But after e4, black knight has to go, then knight b6, and knight takes on a8. That's why we play d7. So it's a very nice idea, you know. Pawn is being sacrificed, but the coordination of black pieces have been ruined. So knight has to go, and black, instead of dreaming about attack and about initiative, black is reduced to a very passive and unpleasant defense. So Cengiz couldn't sustain such a change psychologically, and he desperately tried to keep an extra exchange by playing e5, but it keeps an exchange, but immediately losing the game. So
now I start to recognise it.
Oh yeah. So, but knight from a3 is on g4. You know, within 6 moves, this knight, you know, made such a career.
I've been to understand how he collapsed like that with e5 because he thought he was going to win, and then he couldn't readjust to the new situation.
So f6 is the only move, then bishop c4, rook f8, a4. So eventually I played e4, but with more effect than at move 1. So he resigned, and this game virtually decided the championship.
The next obstacle in the path to a steady rise to stardom was the Soviet Master title. And although that might sound rather trivial compared to his other marvellous accomplishments, it was in fact vital to further progress, and Soviet titles were hard to come by. Although Garry Kasparov had turned heads with his record-setting results in the Soviet Junior Championships, he had committed the sin of failing twice while representing the Soviet Union abroad, surprisingly unable to do better than third place in successive World Cadet, that's under-16 championships. Only prodigies can be in danger of passing over the hill in their early teens. From the outside, the Sokolsky Memorial Tournament in Minsk, 1978, looked like a simple formality for the future world champion. He won it and exceeded the Soviet master norm by a full 3.5 points. At the time, Kasparov also associated the memory of this event with his first head-to-head duel with another grandmaster, which he won. As the years have gone by, the emphasis has changed, and Kasparov can freely recall the pressure and insecurity that transformed this seemingly insignificant tournament into an important landmark in his early career.
That was a very important tournament in my chess career. It's Sokolsky Memorial, Minsk, January 78. I was already 14 years old, nearly 15, and I still couldn't make my master norm. I played not very successfully the junior championship under 16, summer 77. So for me it was absolutely crucial to play well in this tournament and to
Was this a qualifying tournament for the Soviet Championship?
No, it was in January. It was in January. The qualifying was in June, 78. But before, I had to make my master norm. It was getting too late. I was about to lose the status of the young prodigy. I
over the hill.
Yeah, I remember when we arrived there and we played this event, and it was very, very representative by Soviet standards. They even had 2 grandmasters. No, in fact, one. Luchko was grandmaster. Koprechik was about to become grandmaster, and many strong masters. And the norm was +2 in the 17 rounds. And I looked at the list of the players, and the normal to my mother, the drawing of lots, +2. I mean, it's so difficult, just even to think how can I make this result. Eventually, I made +11, +9. 11 wins, two losses. And I played quite a few really good games, and it proved to me and to the rest that I'm making really big progress. So this is one of the most fascinating games. In round 2, I played local master Roizman, and he played quite an aggressive opening, and as we see, the black king is in the center. But black has 2 bishops and potentially attack on g2 square.
You mentioned Koprechik. Almost the only time in my life I played this opening was played against me when I was white. Was Koprechik himself played against me?
Yeah, the Belarusians played this opening quite often.
Have you had any other game of yours?
I played Koprechik also in the qualification for the Soviet Championship in June 78. We played the same opening. Yeah, and I was slightly better, but the game was a draw because the result was dictated by the tournament standing. So in this position, what black did, and played h5, you know, trying to use h-pawn to add pressure on g2, because if the pawn was on h4, then it will cover a crucial g3 square, where one of the white pieces, presumably bishop, will keep the rooks from attack.
King h1 might be my reaction here.
Yeah. So, but I found another reaction. Now, if you have to close the g file, why don't you do it, you know, most effectively for g5? You know, shooting two birds. You close g file and also you attack f6. So you remind black that the king on f7 is also not in the heaven. So of course black cannot take on g5 because of a knight f6. Everything is over. So that's why, you know, black has to come back and defend this square. So queen d8 looks very, very natural. My next move, I think, was logical, but still, you know, Roizman was quite surprised, because now there are virtually no chances for bishop to leave the square.
What's his future?
So he plays bishop e6, and now white has to find a way to increase the pressure on f6. And I remember that my opponent was quite happy, because he was sure that you know, Garry Kasparov, you know, lost the track, and now very soon the black will play bishop d5, and how long this bishop could stay on g5 under the pressure of two rooks and the pawn. And I played h4. So it's a very clear signal to black that the bishop will stay there. It's not going to leave the square, but it's still very unclear how white is going to increase the pressure on f6. And Roizman played with very little hesitation bishop d5, which proved to be a decisive mistake. So he had to consider white's potential threat, that was very definitely not obvious, and to play bishop g4, blocking the g pawn from advancing. But it's very difficult psychologically to put bishop on g4 to close g file when your two rooks are ready, you know, to attack.
You could, if you wanted to, save the bishop as well, going queen d2 and get it out if you wanted to.
Yeah, but bishop g4, I would probably play bishop h6. Yeah. You know, potentially with potential threats, knight g5 check and knight h7. But the position remained very unclear, as after bishop d5, white had, you know, the killing blow, I mean, g4. So the move seemed, you know, suicidal. And I again remember the face of my opponent and some of the people around. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you play g4, you open the king, but it's quite a logical move, because it, again, is killing two birds. One is it prepares the threat now to take on h5, or in case of the pawn take on g4, h5, attacking rook on g6. So instead of attacking f6 additionally, because there are no more resources, white is attacking rook on g6, which is the main protector of pawn on f6 and the black king. So also, if black takes on g4, that means that there's no more threats on the g file. So suddenly black has to solve very difficult problems, and the post-mortem analysis proved that at that time there was no defense. So Roizman played king g7, which was probably not the most compelling challenge for white to refute. There were a couple of other moves, but obviously, you know, if he takes on g4, then after h5, everything is over. So that's he has to sacrifice an exchange, but I don't see that there are any serious problems. You know, it's quite easy. I mean, bishop g6 and then queen e5, and black collapses. So another option, and the most interesting, was rook h8. So protecting pawn on h5 and asking white to show the threat. But now suddenly bishop goes on f6, and the key line is that after rook g4, queen takes g4, h g4, bishop e7, king takes a knight c5.
You fork him on b7.
yes, we take back the queen. So rook h8, bishop f6, bishop takes f6 was the best move.
Why are you playing this strange way, bishop g5, queen f4, h4? Is it because you were a little boy, or was it because you thought they were objectively the best moves, or because you knew no other way to play, or because you calculated everything? Or you go,
No, I didn't calculate everything. I have to admit that when I played bishop g5, I didn't see g4 yet. But, you know, I saw black king on f7. So it had to be something. The king is there, so I have to create some threats. So to play king h1 or bishop d2, it probably was not bad, but it didn't serve the purpose. So I believed I had to attack the king. I believe white position is better, and that's intuition. You know.
If you showed Karpov all this analysis in the game, do you think he would still play king h1 and bishop?
Absolutely, because that's a matter of style and taste. But also, I think that Karpov will never find himself in such a position, because normally, you know, he has totally different openings. So it was easy for me to make these moves. I was, of course, very confident. I was 14, and I had plenty of energy, and if I believe that's a right way to go, I did not hesitate. So there are many other
You still think it's the right way to go?
I think that's and I checked it with the computer, I checked my old analysis. It seemed that white was better, not winning, but better in all variations, even after bishop g4. So my intuition in 78 worked well.
Why do you like this game so much? Because of the novelty of the idea?
No, G4 is a move, you know. So it's very unusual, because it's a move that's very difficult to anticipate, since we all pretend that, you know, the king has to be protected by the pawns, and you have to be very cautious in exposing your king. So I managed to combine the attack and the defense, you know, at once, and that's why I like this game very much. And also, you know, I was 14 years old. I think the quality of the game was very high. So without going into the complications after bishop takes f6, bishop f6, g5, where eventually white was winning, and again those lines are heavily analyzed now with the computer. We may look at the end of the game now. He played king g7, but now it's nearly over. F takes g5 and queen e5 check. So
I think he was like King was a bit shocked, wasn't he? It's the same thing. There's some weaker defense because of.
Oh, absolutely. This is the
shocked.
Yeah, g4, you know, destroys the will to resist. So is looking for immediate refutation. There is no refutation, and then there is no defense. So and he immediately makes the first move, and the move is losing once. So there was another tricky defense here to play rook f6 instead of king h6, and now white played h6, and there's another funny line. King h6, bishop knight takes f6. Oh, sorry, yes. H6, king h7, of course. We should go on h7, check, check, rook f6, d takes h4, king f1, and now rook g1.
Good lord.
Yeah, expecting king takes g1, queen g8, and queen g2 mate. But after queen e2, king b2,
we ignore him.
Yeah. So, but Roizman played king h6. And for a moment, it seems that black has some chances, because white king is also very exposed, and then he takes pawn on g6, and material is not that bad, you know, two bishops and a pawn versus rook and knight. But in reality, white is in attack. After rook f5, it's very clear that the game will not last long. You know, white is attacking, so the best move was to take on g6 and take on e4, but that would just prolong the agony. Take with the king. But, you know, this obviously invites white to activate rook e1, which I did with king h2, and black resigned, you know. The combined attack of queen, knight, and two rooks.
What were you doing at 14? Were you trying to play like Alekhine? Were you trying to play like Kasparov? Were you just trying to play?
Alekhine was sort of the ideal player, and I liked very much studying his games, so that's why you could see the influence. But I mean,
were you playing quiet openings with black at all? Yeah.
I played different openings. I even played Caro-Kann with black. So, but I don't think that in 1977, 78, even 79, even in early 80s, the openings meant a lot, because the opening theory was not developed as today. So that's why it was more about your style and about your preferences in the middle game. If you wanted to have complications, you would have complications all over the place. So
even the Caro-Kann.
Yeah, I played some nice games in the Caro-Kann. Obviously, you know, Sicilian is sharper, and from 79 I switched back to Sicilian now, and for the last 20 years my choice remains the same. But in the tournaments that of that level, you know, junior championship, the master tournaments, the tournaments with average GMs, at that time the openings didn't mean very much, and you could see in some of my tournaments, like, you know, in Banja Luka in '79, I played openings that I never studied, like Queen Indians with Ace-3.
You never studied that?
No, I never studied.
The reputation of being the greatest expert.
Yeah, exactly. No, I studied later, but when I played with Brown, it was, you know, the first time I saw the opening. I just saw a few games in the format, and I said, great opening. Why don't I do it? So you had a lot of space for creativity at that time, and I used all advantages that I had over my opponents with tactics and also strategy.
Do you remember any games you played at that time where you felt completely outclassed at the end of it? Maybe one game against some strong grandmaster, you thought, well, this guy's just clearly better than me. It was a real education. Do you remember any game like that?
Sashkovsky in the Soviet Championship in '78. Yeah, in the round 16, I was totally outplayed.
It was a Sicilian defense, wasn't
it? No, it was Karakan. And I think probably quit the opening after this game.
Jumping ahead, talking about learning experiences, did you learn anything from Prodigy, did you think?
Oh yeah, that was a separate probably subject. The Prodigy and Spassky contributed a lot for my education. Yeah, I played many tournaments with them. You know, it's Tilburg '81, Bugoinen '82, Nikšić '83, and I had many discussions with them. They've seen me as the next challenge to Karpov. It was quite obvious, even in '81, but obviously in '83. And we had many discussions about the chess styles, about how to play matches, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot, more from Prodigy than from Spassky, but those discussions and those talks were very complimentary.
Spassky, go back to the late '60s, was regarded as the best player in the world at that time. He didn't have any individual style as such. It was very universal. He could just put together what previous players had done, put it together and played it better than anybody else. Many people regard Prodigy as one of the most strategically creative players ever. Is that your opinion?
No, I wouldn't think so. I think strategically Smyslov was probably even superior than Prodigy, yes. But
superior? Smyslov was very clear cut.
Yes, clear cut. So that's why, you know, the strategy
games are very unusual.
Yeah, but Prodigy, had great feelings of danger, and also he could, he could anticipate the value of different positional factors. So Prodigy games, to some extent, were more complicated than Smyslov games because he developed a little bit in the strategy, and he was fighting a better opposition. So the 60s were more superior than 50s in terms of advancing positional technique.
The next game shows a player with his faith in himself restored, and now the upward rise was to be very steady indeed. After a patch of bad form, Kasparov had overcome his first crisis of confidence and gained the Soviet master title. An indication of how quickly one could vanish in that toughest of chess schools is the little-known fact that Kasparov was nearly kept out of the event where he won that previous game. The Sokolsky Memorial was supposed to be for masters only, and Kasparov had only gotten his crack at the title after some debate. With this uncomfortable interlude behind him, his career was back on track. Time for